2. Yes, it is, folks, and a very good morning to you if you're watching in the UK. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you're listening to or watching this stream from around the world. My name is Paul Webber. Hello to you. And we are here today to bring back the Love Audio Cafe series of interviews. And I've got a really strange one for you today. We're going to be interviewing a bush. I kid you not. It is my great pleasure to welcome onto the stream for the very, very first time. Please, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and welcome to our show the one and only Bushman UK. Hello to you, Mr. Bushman UK. You are on live on Love Audio Cafe's stream. How you doing, sir?
Hey, somebody can. Hello, hello. I'm all good. Nice to see you. And hello, any subscribers who joined me. Oh, yeah.
Fantastic. Now, listen, we must explain that there might be a slight delay because you're not in the UK currently. You're in Thailand. Is that correct?
I am. That's exactly right, sir.
So the bush is in Thailand. Now, one of my first questions, well, actually one of my further down questions was going to be, does that mean you've got multiple costumes for different parts of the world?
Well, yes, actually. Oh, that's better. I know I look a lot better bushed up.
There he is.
This, my word, even in this room with air conditioning on, it's pretty hot. Yes, this is made of plastic leaves, which look a lot like all the local stuff that grows here.
Yeah.
So I really do blend in, and I stand around in this rather splendid large pot.
Wow.
And people just think I'm a bush as they walk past. I've done Thailand a few times now. The reactions are quite good. I've been whacked by a few ladyboys, which I thought was rather funny. They're quite excitable when some shrubbery jumps at them.
Absolutely. How long have you been doing it?
Oh, I think it's about 2 years now. I think over 2 years. I think 2 or 3 years, something like that. I think.
Of course, $1 million question is why? Why did you begin to do it? Why do you still do it? And what did you kind of get out of it, really?
Yeah, that's a good question. I remember in all the COVID fun, which it wasn't, like everything was so depressed and gloomy. And if you turn the TV on, it was just like gloom and despondency and project fear. And everybody was told it was all going to end badly. And it was. until we got the vaccines, which was great. But even towards the end of it, everyone was so sad, and I thought, oh, this is awful. And where you could really tell was the high streets were just dead. Nobody would go there, and I thought, this isn't right. These should be like fun places where people go and mix and have a laugh. So I thought, well, I'd love to bring a bit of joy and laughter back. And I thought, what could I do? Busk and play a guitar? Nope. Juggle? Nope. So I sort of saw one of the early Bushmen on YouTube, and I thought, that's just about insane enough to try it. So I did. I did quite a few practice runs without my camera, and I got banned from a few places quite fast because I was learning my trade. So I went into some private sort of ish areas, scared 9 shades out of quite a few people. But it was really just to bring joy and laughter back to the high street is why I started it. And I thought, I'll do it for a while. I had my own targets, which I met and exceeded them. And I thought, do you know what? This is actually quite fun. And loads of people getting a lot of pleasure out of the madness of it. Probably me getting the most pleasure from it.
We'll go into audio reaction a little bit later on. But whereabouts do you do it? I know obviously you're based in the UK, but you're not currently. You're in Thailand, where you also do it. But generally, you're in the UK. Where else in the world have you managed to jump out and surprise people? Let's say.
Yeah, good call. Obviously, the southwest of England is where I live, so it's pretty easy to do it. I've done it in Edinburgh. I wanted to be the first Bushman in Edinburgh. Really satisfying. Did it just in the gardens by Princess Street. Took me a good couple of hours walking around to find the right location and set it up. And it was tourist season up there. So there were people from all around the world who'd come there to absorb the culture and do all that stuff. So the last thing they expected was a bit of shrubbery to jump up at them. That went really well. And apparently there is now an Edinburgh Bushman. I haven't met him or her, so I like to think that I may have left a bit of a legacy of that. I've done it in Crete, over in Greece, which was really good fun. I really enjoyed that. I know some guys that run a bar there, really tolerant, and they let me set it up. And I even made the local press, which I was really amazed at. There's a huge article about me, and one of the guys translated it, and they just said that it's really good fun, and like, people were making an effort to come up and see me, and they liked the way I was not really, maybe the elderly people, not scaring them to the point of heart attack, but just having a laugh with them. That was quite good fun, Crete, because it's a big melting pot. So people were walking towards me, say I could hear them speaking German, so I could suddenly jump up at them and shout out "Guten Tag, wie geht's?" So they think, well, we've just been scared by a bush, and it's a German bush.
Yeah.
This is too weird. So that was really good fun. Where else have I done it? Obviously, in a couple of places in Thailand now. Bangkok was really, really difficult because the air in Bangkok is pretty hard to breathe. It's really noisy, so my really cheap technology was really struggling to pick any good screams up on the main track. So I shifted up, set up beside a couple of tuk-tuk drivers. It was a great location. And I rocked up with same sort of pot and all this gear. And these Thai blokes were looking at me thinking, what's this crazy fella doing? Putting my stuff up. And they still hadn't realised. And then when I pushed up right by this bloke's tuk-tuk, and he's like having a sleep in the back of it. It was a slack day. And suddenly there's all these screams that woke him up. Then he got it. Oh, what a laugh. So
yeah.
That's as far as I've got at the moment in terms of locations.
It's interesting. Rich has just commented, and one of my questions later on was going to be, what's your worst reaction and your best reaction so far, do you think?
Oh, wow. I think there's been quite a few notable bad reactions, which are often the funniest. I was doing this again in Thailand in a place called Hua which is a reasonably developed small fishing village. It's not like where I am now, Pattaya or Bangkok. And I found this place, which is like an alleyway walk down to the beach. It's the popular drag. And over here, when I was doing it, cannabis was decriminalised. So I thought, all right, that's pretty cool. And I kind of look a bit like, I guess, cannabis blonde. So I set up outside a cannabis store with the permission of this lady. And I was having a hoot of a time, really scaring people. And two coppers walked past. So I thought, oh, why not? So the female copper, she like went, ah, and jumped back a bit. Male, properly armed, this guy, didn't look happy. Anyway, they cleared off and they came back 4 or 5 minutes later. And I had this guy yabbering away to the Thai lady that runs a cannabis store. And she was talking quite heatedly. And the only bit in English I heard was crazy YouTuber. And I said to her afterwards, I said, how close was I to getting arrested? And she said, you were really close to this guy arresting you. He wasn't happy. So that's on one of my videos. That was really funny. Another wacky reactions, bad ones. Recently, a teenage guy in the southwest of England, I think he was from China, or he's from China, really went ballistic. His mum laughed, and her younger son laughed. But he went mad, and she was pulling him back. He was trying to kick me and saying he was going to kill me. I tried to find him afterwards to apologise and square it up. But I think what that was about losing face, which is quite an important thing for Asians. So that didn't go well. One I really loved on the bad ones was in the early days, I was all pushed up down this kind of alleyway, which is full of sort of crafty, groovy shops. And a couple of guys appeared. And they were probably, I'm going to put it, some people would kind of cross the road to avoid them. And as they walked towards me, staggering a bit, looking a bit worse for wear, shall we say, one wanted a rest, so he put his hand on my head, thinking I was a bush, just to have a rest. And I went, away! And this bloke screamed, jumped in the air, knocked all the signs from these shops flying. And him and his mate were sobbing with laughter. I thought they could have stabbed me. But
You see, that kind of reaction is priceless, isn't it? And you're hoping that all the tech works and the camera works and the sound works and everything else, and you've set that up perfectly so you can keep that as an archive. And I know and we'll go through how people can get hold of you, by the way, very shortly. But I noticed that on your videos you've got like reaction videos and things like that, which is really good. And of course, you know, the good thing about this, Mr. Bushman UK, is the fact that they are natural, if you pardon the pun. There are natural reactions to what you're actually doing in the street.
yeah, and that's right. You asked about like the good reactions and the things that really bring me joy. Like there's loads of Bushmen out there now, which is brilliant, and some of them go for the really extreme stuff. Do you know it's often the subtler things I like? It's like when youngsters come along. So you get a family with a couple of kids, 4 or 5. I'll make them all jump. The parents will scream, and the kids generally are pretty fearless, and they think it's hilarious because their parents have screamed and jumped, and I then have to explain who I am, and I make up stories. Try and do them differently each time about being a magic bush and why I'm here
Yeah.
and how I'm trying to get back to the enchanted forest, and that's really good fun. One of my all-time favourites is hen parties. Oh, that's joyously funny.
Yeah.
I got invited in by a load I was scared of something rotten up. Once I finished, they came out and dragged me in to drink a lot of prosecco with them, which I thought was really sweet.
Excellent.
So if anyone sees me, I like prosecco.
For a bush that drinks real ale, that's pretty good. That's pretty impressive.
Look, I'm a cheap date. I'll drink anything.
Does it bring you? And does this whatever you're doing, obviously the jumping out and people and being the Bushman UK, does it bring you any income at all?
Yeah, it's how it all works, and I'm no expert in this. When you get enough, I think it's subscribers on YouTube, you could do a thing called monetizing.
Yeah.
When you get a tiny income from the adverts, it's still loss making, and it probably always will be. I had a lot of people try and give me donations and say, look, I'm not doing this for money, and this tiny income that comes in just pays for like petrol and parking to get around a bit and stuff like that, really, and a wee bit of cheap technology. Some of the big famous bushmen who I like Texas bushmen. If you look at anyone who's into this stuff, you look at their views they get and the subscribers they've got, and some people are making a really good living out of this, which is rather fun. And I like the idea that they can probably make more money dressed as a shrubbery than the Prime Minister can. I find that quite satisfying. They certainly bring a lot more pleasure.
You've got to be at some certain level to be able to bring that kind of income in there, don't you? So is that something you aspire to? You hope to build the channel even more and get more views and therefore get more income?
Do you know that? Yeah, that's a cracking question, because the thing is, right, I'm doing everything on the cheap because this has never been about generating an income. But you reach a point where if you want to do it, you've got to invest seriously, spend a couple of £1,000 on decent cameras, radio mics, stuff like this. And you suddenly get into a different league. You've got to use proper editing software rather than the free stuff I use that's bundled with my cheap desktop PC, all this stuff. I guess the investment is probably between £2,000 and £5,000 to up your game. So when you watched, I don't know, people like Alex Troy, who's absolutely brilliant. I think it's him and his girlfriend do it. What you're looking at there is people using pretty good tech. They tend to use things like iPhones, really good ones. And they've also got, they don't do it on their own. They have a camera person to help them. I only ever had one camera person to help me, and he was convinced he was killed, so I think it put him off it. So I have to do it all on my own, which is a right pain. Because a lot of these guys do have a camera, and what that brings with it is a different level, because you can go into places you're not allowed to go.
Yeah.
Like, do a couple of pranks and then clear off really quick before security can get you. Because I think I got chased out of a private place in where I am now, in Pattaya, Thailand. I hadn't even set up, and this little security bloke came down in an ill-fitting suit, and using the international language, which I won't say because it was very rude, suggested I go away. So you can get chucked off very quickly.
I was going to ask you, you've already spoken about your best moments and, kids laughing and everything and a great reaction that the parents get and everything else. Do you, when you're setting this up, prior to the bush and everything else, are you wary of people seeing you set up, or can you do it discreetly and then jump in the thing and then you're set to go? How does it work? Just talk us through how your process works.
Yeah, I spent quite a while sussing out the area I want to do it in, just to see, the way I describe it is work out what the vibe is like. Because if there's been, say, something's kicked off an hour or so beforehand, people are a bit unsettled, say there's been a bit of trouble, something like that, you've got to suss the vibe out.
Yeah.
Suss out the people around you, because one thing, it depends where you are, but where I typically do it, first thing in the morning, there's a very large number of people who've probably just been to the early morning pharmacies for their daily help to get through the day. And I know most of them, but they can be a little bit unpredictable and lose it. So best to go when it's busy. Then when it's busy, you've got to kind of set up really discreetly. So what I do, I know quite a few of the shopkeepers, and I've got places I get changed and pushed up where I'm out of sight, you see. So setting it up takes about 5 minutes. I then clear off for 5 minutes. Then I will appear. That's when people start to say, "Oh, it's you again," and a lot of folk recognise me now when I'm walking around in civvies.
Do you get somebody like the shopkeepers you're talking about? Do they kind of play the part, if you will, so they'll kind of pretend to help or move the pot to the location outside their shop, and then obviously you get into your suit? How does that work?
It works really well. I've had quite a few people bring me coffees out, which is nice of them. I've had to ask a few shopkeepers to come out and tip water on me because it gets so hot, especially over here. I've had loads of people turn up with very large containers of water, and they just tip the whole thing on my head, because without that, I just can't do it. It's just too hot.
Yeah.
But that really helps. I get sometimes get given bags of fudge, which is always appreciated. So little things like that are nice. I get asked to pop in for coffees afterwards to have a chat to the staff. I generally, though, poke my head in the shops and say, "Are you guys all cool?" If I, it might be like if you've got a chain, they've got an area manager coming down who might be a bit grumpy and say, "Oh, it's brand new." I think generally I've always had a good reception. Starbucks staff have been brilliant. Independent staff are always a good laugh. There's one chap where I regularly go who's a bit of a lunatic, so I see trouble ahead there, but that's his problem, not mine.
For the benefit of our viewers, because obviously the channel's mainly about audio production and things like that, just run through the tech that you're currently using. I know you said you'd love to be able to upgrade that and to move on and do better stuff. What are you currently using?
What I use for the camera is a thing called a Casso, which is very small. It's a very basic 1080/4K camera with a microphone that I plug in and then put on a bit of plastic as like a hood to try and pick sound up. The microphone is a lapel mic, so therefore it's not really designed for what I'm doing, but it does work remarkably well, which is why you'll often see me when I can doing it in narrower roads like alleyways, because you asked like how I set it all up. I often have to think about the acoustics because I need echo and sound, because if someone screams, or I get say half a dozen teenage girls screaming, which is a wonderful sound, if you get it echoing, it's hilarious. I think I scared about 20 or 30 Italian students once, and the noise was deafening because I was in quite a narrow road. They were wonderful. Not one of them was swearing, so they were there. So it was a lot of Spanish students, and they were so well behaved that I actually sent a message that I tracked them down through their logos to their school, and I said, "Your youngsters were such a joy. No swearing, no trouble, just laughter." I said, "Oh, they were so well behaved." But for my technology, that worked brilliantly. But what most bushmen are doing now is they're picking up used iPhones, because the more modern iPhones do night work. You see, none of my stuff is done at night.
No.
Because the tech I use, action cameras, I shouldn't say this, but on the whole, they're rubbish because they just don't work in low light conditions. Whereas iPhones and all the other phones are really good now, the modern ones. They're fantastic at night. So that's definitely the way to go, not action cameras. And also I need a radio mic. Put it on me or put it on the pop, because that gets all the conversations I have with the kids, and it's a lot more intimate when you get the screaming. If you get that, and it also cuts out a lot of noise.
So the the lapel mic that you're using then sends a signal back to where the camera is, and then everything gets recorded on the camera end.
Well, kind of. It's actually plugged into the camera, so it's always about 8 meters. So I have to pace out the distance from the camera to where the pot is set up. It only works at a certain distance. It's in this little homemade acoustic hood. So really, it's not designed for doing this at all, but it works surprisingly well. It took me quite a long time to work out how to use it, but it's remarkably good when you consider what the value of the whole tech. One setup, a camera, a few odds and sods to mount it, and this microphone, 300 quid is dirt cheap. So as you can tell, I'm really doing this on the cheap at the moment.
That's really good. Yeah. So forgive me for being a bit ignorant, but does that mean there's a cable trailing, or is it a wireless lapel mic?
Here is a cable, so I do have to stash all the cable away, and that can bring problems with induction, because if you start to scrunch up and curl all these cables up, as the tech I'm using isn't that well shielded, sometimes you get funny feedback and clicking noises, which can ruin it all. And when I was learning, I made quite a few rookie errors. I did quite a few videos in black and white. That was just
black and white's not too bad, because you can you can really portray a really good image in black and white. And same with video as well. It's quite evocative to have a black and white video going sometimes, even if it's just a bit of what we call B-roll that you'd insert into another video. You swap
Yeah.
across to a black and white selection of images, and then back to your color, and it just works really well to capture that image, doesn't it? To capture that what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of interest in what you're doing.
Yeah, I made the mistake though of doing a whole 10-minute YouTube video in this black and white, which really didn't go down too well. I thought, I won't do that again. It's a shame because I had some cracking screams on it. I think I got a couple of coppers,
Yeah,
which was fun, but it just it didn't work at all.
but like I said, you can use that. You could edit that up and just put those into a show reel, perhaps, on your YouTube channel or whatever. Just a few, not bloopers, but a selection of images in between the color ones, and it just breaks that up, I think. Anyway, just my own personal 5 penneth worth for what it's worth.
Yeah, it's a good call. I ought to think about it, but then it wouldn't show up all my groovy pink roses and
That
all
is
the other
true.
weird,
Yeah. For
weird
those of you
stuff.
watching in black and white, it's the one behind the pink. That was the famous line when they were doing snooker and we had a black and white TV. I thought, what? How does that work? Very, very strange. Yeah, so it's been absolutely fascinating hearing all about what you do, and we should, for the benefit of the show, point out the fact that you frequent the pub that I now manage here in the South Devon area. So it'd be great to see you when you get back to the UK. How long have you got left in Thailand?
I think I get back in about a week's time, and then probably about 4 or 5 days to get over the jet lag and find some cheap Imodium by then. I should be.
Yeah,
Which is
that's the unfortunate thing about foreign food is sometimes you take a while to adjust to it. I fully understand that.
Yeah, I would be out there doing a lot more at the moment, but shall we say things are a bit challenging here at the moment.
And what are you?
Yeah, so I'll be back in about a week. So if anybody in my normal haunts is enjoying the peace and quiet, I know where you live.
They'll be back to scare you shortly. Yeah.
That's the plan. Yeah.
Do you? I mean, with regards to planning your week or your month ahead, do you know where you're going to be from kind of one week to the next, or you just kind of just pitch up and do it?
It's the first thing is the weather, because I can't do this in the rain.
No.
There's a few reasons. One is one bit of water on the lens of these little cameras ruins it.
Yeah.
But also the other problem is that where I like to do it, the ground's quite slippery when it's wet, and I really don't want to cause anyone distress by them flying over and getting all wet and muddy.
No.
So that's a problem. So I've got to look at the weather and also low wind conditions, because again, using cheap means that if I put wind noise suppression on, the quality of the sound deteriorates to a point where it's just too muffled. So I've learned that you've just got to get rid of that. It's like the early days of Dolby. The early Dolby stuff worked, but it sounded awful. So I've got to plan ahead in terms of wind and rain, and in the winter, not to do it in the snow, which I have done. Oh my God, that's cold. That's really, really unpleasant. But luckily when I get back, it's still summer over where you are, which probably just means rain.
Well, yeah, it's been on and off because you only left a few days ago. But yeah, it's been on and off, to be perfectly honest with you. And of course, being a pub with an outdoor beer garden. In fact, you should come to the pub and do the bush thing there. That'd be amazing. Can you imagine?
I did ask the owners once, and I hadn't even finished the sentence, and the answer was a very loud no.
Oh, well,
I think it was something about you might kill our punters.
Oh, please. If you can do it in Exeter City Centre, I'm sure you can do it in a beer garden in South Devon. So,
Tell me when Jane's away and we'll get away with it.
Ah, okay. Well, it's been great talking to you, and thank you so much for joining me on Love Audio Cafe today. It's been a joy and a pleasure. No doubt you give joy and pleasure to come on and speak, and also it gives other people joy and pleasure to to have you jump out at them, let's say, and scare them witless, but then they laugh about it afterwards. And I think that's part of the joy of the whole concept, is the fact that, yes, they're initially scared. Hopefully they haven't got a heart condition like I have, but if they are scared witless and then they can laugh about it afterwards, it's a bit like, you must remember this. We had a chap called Jeremy Beadle, used to do Beadles About, and it was kind of pranking, on a grander scale with big cameras and all that kind of stuff, and bits and pieces, and it was a popular show, and people, when they have the reveal, when they know what's going on, that's when they go, oh. And you must have a lot of those moments as well to remember.
I do, and I get a lot of people contacting me saying things like, "You scared us rotten over the weekend." Then they get annoyed that they're not in a video I do. Say, "Why aren't we in it?" And I've actually made presents for people, like 2-minute videos of just them. I don't mind doing that. If I've got time, I'll do them a video and send it off to them and say, "There you go, that's one for you and your mates." So that's always quite fun.
That's not a bad idea. And I suppose people, and you mentioned earlier on about people trying to give you donations, and you say, "Look, I'm not doing it for the money." Have you ever thought about setting up a charitable donation, if you will? So if people do want to put in the pot, let's say you support a certain charity for a year, and then you can donate it afterwards. That's maybe an idea. I don't know if you've ever thought about that.
I have, and I did contact a couple of charities. I've actually worked for a few through the years, and I got the same response from two. So I thought this is pretty much what they're all going to say, which is you could cause us a lot of brand damage because your stuff's pretty extreme. Yeah. And they said it doesn't really tie in with our values, and I get that. So I never worry. And quite recently, a guy asked me to do a local music festival. A music and arts festival, and so nearer the time I contacted the organisers, and the actual top organisers said, "No, we're not interested." They said, "Your stuff's too extreme." I said, "It's not. It's like free street entertainment. This is the whole point of street entertainment."
Yeah.
And they didn't really get it, and they were charging people to get in. So I guess their world and my world are pretty different.
Okay. All right, well, it's food for thought, isn't it? Again, thanks very much indeed, Bushman UK. Pleasure to speak to you, as I said, and come and join us for a pint when you're back in the UK. And thank you very much indeed. And thanks for joining Love Audio Cafe today. Brilliant.
Never trust a bush.
Never trust a bush. Never a true word spoken in jest.